From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenni Carlson here with Barry Tramel. Time for our We Pick'em segment this week. It's all NBA playoffs, Barry. That's all we're thinking about anyway, so we might as well pick them. Let's get right to it. Let's start with this one, Barry. Thunder Grizzlies, Game 3, Saturday in Memphis. Who you got?
Well, I'm taking Memphis. We've seen two Thunder Grizzlies games in Oklahoma City, and both were the same script. Both in the 90s, both tough games. Memphis led most of the way in both games. Thunder comes back, takes a lead late, but Memphis made the plays in Game 2. I think we're going to see a little bit different Memphis team in Tennessee. They play better at home. That tough defense still be there. The rebounding whistles tend to go their way a little bit more. They've already been going Memphis' way in terms of the inside poundings. So I think it's going to be tough for the Thunder to win this game.
Yeah, I do too. Memphis is a tough place to play. I don't know if it's up to the level of the peak on a regular basis. It's definitely not in the regular season. They usually don't have big crowds until the playoffs, but in the playoffs, they definitely have big-time crowds. And role players in situations like that, sometimes tough to see guys come through. And the Thunder needs a lot of its role players to play well to beat this Grizzlies team on offense, especially, Barry. They say role players don't travel, and in hostile environments like this, we're going to see if that's true. And I think it might be in Game 3. I'm taking the Grizzlies in this one, too. Well, aside from Game 3, who wins the series? That's the big question here, Barry. Who you got?
Well, it's a 5-game series now, and 3 of the games are in Memphis. And here's the deal. The Thunder was going to have a devil of a time with Memphis with Russell Westbrook. I mean, the Grizzlies are a tough, chiseled team. I think the Thunder would have won with Russ, but it wasn't going to be easy. Without him, I think it's just a little bit too insurmountable. I think the Grizzlies win the series.
Yeah, I've got the Grizzlies winning this series too. And here's why. I think that the Grizzlies just have more offense to handle the Thunder's defense and the Thunder just doesn't quite have that consistent offense, especially if Mike Conley decides to play on a pretty regular basis like he did in Game 2. I mean, I don't know if he can go for another 26 and a near triple-double like he did in Game 2, but if he's anywhere close to that, you gotta like the Grizzlies' chances. I mean, he gives them another option offensively to go along with those inside guys of Gasol and Randolph. So I just think right now the Thunder have too many questions offensively. Who's Kevin Durant's sidekick? You know, sometimes it's Kevin Martin, and they play pretty well. They win games. Sometimes it's not, and you don't know who it's going to be. I think that inconsistency offensively going to come back to haunt the Thunder.
And Ibaka hasn't stepped up.
If he does, maybe we're talking different. All right, what about this series, Barry? The other one in the West. The Spurs and the Warriors tied 1-1 at this point. Who you got in this one?
Well, maybe I'm the last man in America who's not on the Warrior bandwagon, but I'm going to stick with San Antonio. I just think Greg Popovich will get it done. I think the Warriors are a great story, but they're living with the long shot. And to me, that's fool's gold, even if you're shooting with the best shooter in America today, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson's not half bad himself. But I think the Spurs will eventually wear down Golden State. They got the old veterans that know how to play, the coach who knows how to get it done. It's going to be a rugged series for San Antonio, but I think they get it done in 7.
You talk about wearing down a team. I think the Warriors are going to wear down the Spurs. I got the Warriors winning this one. Those young legs getting up and down the floor. I just think it's a little bit reminiscent of last year in the way the Thunder eventually started to just wear down the Spurs with that athleticism that they showed in the Western Conference Finals. And the Warriors do have the best shooter around in Steph Curry. What an unbelievable series he's turning in. I think these first 2 games, although the Spurs have managed to pull out Game 1, I think it shows us the Warriors have a team that's going to be capable of putting up points against the Spurs and handling the Spurs. I like the Warriors, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this one go a while as they try to wear each other out both ways. What about these Eastern series, Barry? The Heat and the Bulls, they're also tied at 1 after 2 games. Who you got in this one?
Well, I'm going to take the Heat, and frankly, Chicago's a fantastic story. One of the best stories we've seen in years in sports, with a team this decimated by injury. To lose Derrick Rose, to lose Luol Deng, to lose Kirk Heinrich, and keep producing and keep winning. To go to Miami and win Game 1 in a big upset. You know, you just got to salute Tom Thibodeau and his staff. But I think we've reached the end of the run. I think the Heat exerted its will in Game 2 with that blowout. I think those will continue. I think the Heat wins going away.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bulls win another game in this series, but the Heat's going to win the series. I think the Bulls could maybe win one of these next two at home. I think there's going to be a great outpouring by their fans to get that series back there, and I think you'll see definite energy in their building. But the Bulls really running on fumes, to be expected. I mean, they're playing with guys that weren't really expected to be playing and having to play them a bunch. Kudos to them for that Game 1 win. Impressive stuff. But I just don't think that they can last with the Heat to win 3 more games in this series. Lastly, Barry, what about Pacers-Knicks, the other series in the East?
I'm going to take Indiana. It's 1-1 going back to Indianapolis. I just think the Pacers are the better team. Knicks won in a blowout there in Game 2, but I think Indiana's the better team. They're not reliant on the hot streak of Carmelo Anthony. I think the Pacers are one of those teams, a little bit like Memphis, where everything's spread out. They can rely on a lot of different people. They play good defense. I think Indiana's going to win this series.
Yeah, I'm going with Indiana in this one as well. Indiana in the first round sort of had a similar sort of up and down. The first couple games against the Hawks, they were dominant in home games, and then they went to Atlanta and lost. I really thought they might have swept that series, and instead the Hawks were able to make it a series. The Pacers did not sweep. And, I think they have some games where maybe they're not quite as good. But I do think against the Knicks, they're the better team, just having that balance that they've shown, especially in that Game 1 win. I think that's definitely to their advantage. I think the Knicks are a great team, Barry, but I think the Pacers there's something about them. I think if they win this series, I think they're going to give the Heat all they want.
They match up well.
Not going to pick them to win. But I think that's a series right there.
They match up well with Miami.
All right. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.